Hey, what's up, everyone? How you doing? It's me, Mr. 4K Upscaler. Um, Lately, I've been too focused on the live streams and video games, and I totally forgot about these televisions that I have, and the luxury that I have to help you guys out with some of these televisions. Now, this is Sony X900e. Is it showing its age? Well, every TV is going to show its age one way or the other. Okay, because technology is always advancing. All right. It doesn't have the greatest uniformity, you know, and, as far as black levels, here's the thing. A lot of people are complaining about the bending light and everything on this television. There is a way to adjust that. There's a way to fix that. But honestly, guys, as long as you're using LCD, LED technology, you're never gonna have the. If you're looking for a picture perfect deep dark levels, you have to go with the OLED. All right. You're not gonna find the picture perfect deep dark levels on something that's still an LCD, LED backlit technology. I don't care if they put local dimming and quantum dots and all that other stuff. You gotta remember how the television it's made, how it's put together, and what type of panel is it. Is it a VA panel? If it's a vertical alignment, which this most likely it is a vertical alignment with a local dimming LCD, LED backlit with a local dimming. But the whole point of this video is not going to be for me to talk about Sony and LCD televisions in general. I want to talk about this question that everyone's been asking me, and I didn't realize how many of you actually have Sony X900e. There's a bunch of people out there that actually have Sony X900e, and everybody wants to know my take on what's the best movie picture settings. What's the best movie picture settings? So that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to walk you through this video and explain to you why X, Y, and Z, the whole alphabet, why I do this, why I do that. Okay. What you're looking at here, it's a Batman v Superman. The reason I chose this scene, the reason I chose this movie, 4K UHD version of this movie, it's because this movie was directed by Zack Snyder, and the movie does have a bit of grain. That grain is there, and I'll talk about why specifically I chose this demo and why I'm adjusting the picture settings the way I'm adjusting it. Okay. So first thing first, let's talk about the most important part. Before we start, guys, if you have a TV, you should have 3 different presets. I have 4 different presets on all my televisions. I have one for the night viewing, one for the daytime viewing, one for the game, and one for the movies. Sports, honestly, you can use the sports as well. Just crank that motion flow high, and you can use a more of a neutral color tone. But the bottom line is this. On every TV, I have presets. So when I'm watching a movie, I just click on that preset and I watch the movie on that preset. When I'm playing a game, I click on that preset and I play the game. So this way, when you have these different presets all memorized, you don't have to constantly adjust your picture settings. You can have them all memorized once, and that's that. But anyway, let's jump into this. All right. Picture adjustments. First and foremost, a couple of things you need to understand while you're watching this video. This is a camera lens. There is the exposure of the light, and that exposure of light, the camera lens is going to depict. It doesn't matter how far I'm sitting from and what type of camera lens I'm using. Camera lens, it's always going to depict that exposure of light. There's a way to fix that. You can use a low light and fix that, okay, like I can do right now. There's a way of doing that. But remember, we're not doing this video to judge the the picture quality of this television and of this picture settings that I'm doing through camera. Anybody who comes to my channel and is thinking that I'm doing this video to show off how the picture quality looks, well, you're in the wrong channel. I'm not doing it for that. I'm here to give you the recipe. To give you the recipe. If you have this television, I'm going to give you the recipe and why I'm using this recipe for the movies. So let's jump right into it. First thing first, when it comes to the movies, I already selected a Cinema Home preset. Why? So I can memorize it, so I can remember it. Okay? And just because I selected Cinema Home mode doesn't mean that I'm using their default settings. I have adjusted picture settings with this preset on my own preference. So first thing first, let's talk about the most important part. The color temperature. All right, guys, very important. And this applies to all of the televisions when it comes to movies. The warm color, when you go see a movie in movie theaters, when you're watching on a big screen, silver screen with a big projector, there's always going to be that warm tone of color being presented onto the screen. All right? And if you truly want to have that cinematic experience on your television, you have to use the warm color. Color Temperature Expert 1 has a little bit of warmth to it. It's not totally yellow. You know, it is going to feel yellow to you because you're not used to it. But you can still differentiate the different colors and whatnot, okay? It's not like you're watching an orange movie or anything like that. So Color Temperature Expert 1, it's always something that I always recommend, okay? This is for the movies. If you want to have picture settings, calibration for the movie, even professional calibrators, they're going to tell you, keep the Expert 1, or the warm color, or the warm 1, warm 2 on Samsung. Everybody has different names for their color of tone. The bottom line is they're all warm. It's just that Sony calls their Expert 1, but it's a warm color. You got Expert 1 and Expert 2. Warm 1, warm 2. I chose to go with warm 1 and not with warm 2 because the warm 2 is way too yellow. It's way too warm, so I stick only with the Expert 1. So use the warm color, Expert 1. All right, next step. Let's talk about the brightness. All right, the brightness and contrast, you have to make sure that your backlit and your contrast is set to maximum because we're watching an HDR film. If this wasn't an HDR film, you could move this down a little bit, but let's face it, the reason you bought a 4K HDR television, it's for that same reason, because you want to watch all your movies in 4K and HDR. That's the reason why you bought the 4K television. All right, otherwise you would have stick with your 1080p television. So this is something that's always going to be like this when you're watching an HDR film. Let's talk about the black levels. The black levels, I moved it up to 55. The reason I moved it up to 55 because in the movie, you're supposed to brighten up that dark level of detail. You're supposed to see the black bars not being totally crushed. You're supposed to see the movie in its true uniformity from top to bottom, okay? You're supposed to see the entire detail that the filmmaker has intended. So black level, keep it at 55. Black adjustments, right here, I would move them down to medium. I would move it to medium. Why? Because we already have a movie here, and remember, we're trying to avoid that contrast ratio so it doesn't crush our deep dark levels. Contrast enhancer, we can also move it to a medium as well. We'll move it to a medium. Remember, because we don't want to crush or overblown our white bright levels. So we're trying to keep our white bright levels more balanced. Remember, I'm looking for a balance. And honestly, what I'm doing here, guys, what I'm doing here right now, I guarantee you, the person with Kalman, the Kalman calibrating equipment would pretty much have the same exact settings that I'm having right now. I guarantee you, because everything I'm doing right now, I'm trying to keep within the standards of how they're calibrating the movies. So, black levels 55, black adjustments medium, contrast enhancers medium, and local dimming, this you can keep high. Why? Because we're trying to avoid the bending light. This is a backlit. We want to make sure that we don't have too much of that bleeding light, and we want to keep the local dimming, full array of local dimming, to high. Extended dynamic range. Honestly, I don't think for the movie we need to have those brightest whites or the blackest blacks. We can keep this at medium as well. Keep it at medium. The reason I'm doing this because I'm trying to bring that same cinematic movie silver screen experience onto a screen. Remember, I'm calibrating this not so much for the detail, but more for the movie experience, that popcorn movie experience. I mean, you're not going to lose your HDR. The HDR is still going to be there, but I'm going for that balanced movie calibration. And I guarantee you, any professional calibrator that's watching this right now, and I'm sure they will agree with everything that I just did here. I guarantee you. So let's look what we have here. Dynamic range, medium, local dimming high, advanced contrast medium, black adjustments medium, black level 55, gamma always at 0, contrast and brightness backlit to maximum. Now let's go to a color. Guys, when it comes to the color, there is no reason for you to be touching that color, especially when it comes for the movies. You already have the color gamut. You already have the HDR. There's no reason at all for you to be moving that color. Leave that color at default, leave it at 50, so that way you can get that true reproduction of what principal photography, whoever was the principal photography here that was doing it for the Zack Snyder on this movie. That way you can get that original. Remember, you want to get that vision of a filmmaker that he intended. The color and everything that he implemented, the tone of the film. So you don't want to mess with that. You don't want to crush any of that stuff. You don't want to oversaturate any of that stuff. Okay? So you got to keep it, you got to treat it like that. Remember, when these professional calibrators, when they're calibrating, they want to make sure that they preserve the vision and the tone of the film the way it was intended. So keep the color at 50. And remember, we already talked about color temperature, keeping it expert 1 for the yellow, for the warm. And live color, you can keep this at high. This will brighten up that HDR. This is that brightening up that color in the HDR and color gamut. Keep that at high. That's fine. Now let's talk about clarity. Here's the question that always pops up. What about the sharpness? What about the sharpness, Mr. 4K upscaler? We're always having this debate about the sharpness. Sharpness this, sharpness that. Listen, I said this like gazillions of times, and I'll keep saying this till the end of time, or as long as I'm alive. Sharpness does not enhances the detail. Only resolution, pixel density, higher pixel count of density enhances the detail. The only thing the sharpness does, what basically sharpness is, it's a digital outline of the lines. They're presented in the screen. And what you're basically doing when you're raising this sharpness to high, you are actually not making the detail smooth. You're making the detail outline with the digital outline sharpness. And that sharpness, it's almost like tearing apart. Like the characters and the edges of the character here would look as if you were tearing them apart. It would look as if you cut them with the scissors. There would be ghosting on the characters. It would look just horrible. Remember, Yes, you can add a little bit of sharpness here and there. If you truly want that sharpness, you can add a little bit of sharpness, maybe 5, 10%, but don't go above 50%. All right. I would say if you have to use the sharpness, use maybe 20 clicks or 10 clicks. I would say 20 clicks. It's more than enough. But remember, here I am. I got my sharpness at minimum, and I'm not losing any detail. Why that is? Because I already have this movie playing in a 4K, in 8.3 million pixels, okay? Maybe I can choose a different scene here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. All right, for example, right here, in this scene, right now, do you see a loss of any detail here? Do you see that? No, you don't. Everything looks natural as it should be. Remember, man, when you're watching a movie, you want to get that smooth detail so you can see everything, you know? If you move the sharpness all the way high, that grain's going to look horrible. That grain's going to look as if it's snowing. That's on the movie. Like I've seen people on the Die Hard, watching Die Hard, turn the sharpness so freaking high. It looks as if, I don't know, like it's snowing or something in the movie. So I'll say this again, and I keep saying this until I don't exist anymore, I guess. Sharpness does not enhances the detail. Only resolution, higher pixel count of density enhances the detail. The higher the pixel density, the better the detail. The more pixels you have, the more detail you have. It's really that simple. It's as simple as that. All right, so let's go back to see where we were left off right here. We did the sharpness. Okay, we did the color. We did the brightness. Let's now move on to the... we did the color. We did the brightness. We did the clarity. Sharpness. Keep it at minimum. Resolution, this is something that I used just to enhance the a better, smoother quality of digital noise reduction. You know, it's really just me just trying to enhance that digital noise reduction. And right here we got random noise reduction, digital noise reduction, smooth gradation, all of this stuff here. Keep it on automatic because this will really not take any effect on a movie like this or on a 4K player. This will only take an effect if you're watching something like a cable, digital cable, scrambled digital cable, something like that. All right. Let's talk about the motion. This is what I use. This is the best motion you're going to get for a movie. I use True Cinema Motion Flow and Cinema Motion. I use both of these. True Cinema on Motion Flow, and then Cinema Motion I set to high. And last but not least, this honestly should always be like this. You should never ever really touch this. It should always be automatic. Your HDR mode should be automatic. Your video range, HDMI, should be automatic, and your color space should be automatic. Why automatic? Because you need to let the TV communicate via your HDMI to communicate with your receiver, your ARC return receiver, or your device, Apple, Oppo, 4K, whatever you have. Let the TV communicate, let the TV decide what's the best proper color space and video range and HDR mode for your television to render that HDR properly. So this is pretty much what I'm using. This is my Cinema Home picture mode that I used here. You guys should give this a try. You should try it out. You should see if it works for you or if it's not working for you. I personally think this is the best you're going to get, honestly, in terms of getting that accurate cinema movie experience on Sony X900e. Honestly. And remember, something, you're gonna be watching this from like 7 feet away, 8 feet away, or whatever. And I honestly think this is the best that you can get for a cinematic experience on your television on Sony X900e. And everything I just did here, guys, it's really important that you pay attention. Everything I just did here on this video, I didn't go above calibrating cinematic television experience, home theater, calibrating visuals. There was nothing here that I did that was above the standards. I did it exactly as if what the guy with the Calman equipment would have done. I guarantee you. Okay? So there you go. It is a long video, I know, but there's no way for me to do this video in 1440p other than 22 minutes. I cannot do a video sloppy, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It has to be like this. And I hope that you guys rewind this video, pause it, and write these settings down. Remember, you gotta have this TV. You have to have this TV in order for this to work. There you go. I just did it for you in 22 minutes. Enjoy. Take care. Alright guys, that's it, the end of the video. Make sure you write these settings down. Take care. Ask any questions down below. See ya. Cheers. Love you. Bye.